How's it going, Speedsters? Welcome back to a brand new Flash trailer breakdown. So I haven't done one of these in a little while, I don't think since kind of Crisis, but with the next episode and how exciting it sounds, especially from the trailer and what Eric Wallace has teased, I kind of felt obligated to break this trailer down. But of course, guys, just in case you haven't seen a trailer or maybe just watch it again, of course, let's first look at the actual trailer itself, and then we'll get into all of the exciting details you may or may not know about.
I didn't just come back to see family. Lately, I've been sensing that there is something wrong with the Speedforce.
I didn't know anyone else was affected.
The Speedforce is beyond repair. What did you do?
So as usual, the trailer was very quick, but believe it or not, we've got a lot of information about this episode, but also kind of a lot of theorizing to do at the same time. I know that may sound kind of confusing, but yeah, like I'm actually really anticipating this episode. Maybe I shouldn't be like that because, you know, it could lead to, like, the expectations could lead to a bit of disappointment, but, you know, we've got Kid Flash returning, we've got a whole bunch of weird-ass Speedforce stuff going on, and yeah, more from what the showrunner has teased himself, which I'll get into in just a second. But yeah, Flash unfortunately isn't on next week, guys. It is on the following week. That sucks. Hopefully we'll learn more about this episode in the meantime. You may be seeing some promotional photos throughout this video. They don't show a whole bunch, but I thought I'd just chuck them in, like, littered throughout this video to kind of give you, like, teases of little bits and pieces, especially that moment from in the trailer where it looks like we get a bit of a rebirthy kind of Flash and Wally, you know, hug, which is just such an amazing kind of tribute to that. It's done really, really well, and I'm really glad that they decided to include that. But first of all, let's talk about the synopsis and then dive into all of the other details. So, Kid Flash returns to Central City with a zen attitude and new tricks up his sleeve. While thrilled to see his family again, Wally confides to Barry that he has returned because he thinks there is something wrong with the Speedforce. Meanwhile, Cisco returns from his fact-finding mission across Earth Prime, and in those promotional photos that you're probably seeing on screen right now, we see that, like, Cisco's gone half Indiana Jones, half kind of backpacker mode. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what he's learned about Crisis. I've said that quite a few times before, with Gideon last episode saying there's been like 3.275 trillion changes. I wonder if Cisco has found out any of the actual major ones. But what has got me so excited about this episode, guys, is actually an article, I believe, from TV Line. I'll link it down in the description below just in case you want to read it for yourself. But before we actually dissect the scenes that we see in the trailer, I feel, you know, literally obligated to read this out. This, paired along with the trailer, is kind of what has got me very excited. So Eric Wallace had to say this about the episode. Wally returns for one of the pivotal episodes in the mythology of the Flash, and that is not an understatement. He comes back a changed person, and what he comes back to deal with and how it involves Barry will literally change the two of them and their abilities, quite frankly, moving forward. Like, that is just nuts initially. I mean, we kind of knew through teasers of this episode anyway, Wally's going to come back with maybe a couple of new abilities, but apparently this will change for the both of them and a whole bunch more, like, moving forward on the show. Like, in terms of being one of the most pivotal episodes, you know, slingshotting that into the future, which is just like, wow, like, what are they gonna do in this episode? I'm so intrigued. We've got a lot to talk about in today's video, and this is why I need your feedback down in the comments, guys. Continuing on, he said it's going to be quite exciting. When I first talked to Keenan about it, he was very excited about what he called this fresh take on Wally, and once on set, he was loving the new Wally West, and that's not an exaggeration at all. It's the same character that we know and love, but he's grown, deepened, and changed, and he might even have some new abilities. That's kind of no surprise. I expect there's going to be some unexpected things, because I'm kind of expecting, like, Wally to be, I get how they say he's changed. He's probably a lot more zen now. He's been spending, like, time in, Tibet or wherever it was, and he's probably not so much like Kid Flash now. He's probably more in connection, more connected to the Speedforce than the actual Flash himself in some ways or another, and maybe even there's an ability or two that Barry doesn't know. Now, I would love to know your guesses for that down in the comments below. I would be absolutely gobsmacked if they did, like, a manifestation of the suit. Maybe they could do that. I don't see why not, because they don't have to do that every single time. But then again, if Barry learns how to do that from Wally, this is me going off on a bit of a tangent now, why would he just launch out his flash ring if he could just, like harness the Speed Force into his suit? So really interested to see what he can do. I would be surprised if they do that one, but there's still quite a few others that, that they could bring in this episode. Now, without dragging this part out much longer, the key words I took out of that first part of what Eric Wallace said to TV Line, he comes back a changed person, and what he comes back to deal with and how it involves Barry will literally change the two of them. And by the way, I don't think this article is necessarily new. It's what Eric Wallace has actually previously told TV Line, but just kind of like trudging this up again for this breakdown for not next week's episode, the week after, just feels very relevant. And it just really, will literally change the two of them and their abilities, quite frankly, moving forward. Wow. So does that not get you excited? If it doesn't, I don't know what will. Now, supposedly in this episode as well, Barry and Wally will be facing off against one of the Flash's greatest enemies, which, I kind of mentioned in my review from yesterday. Check it out if you haven't, by the way. I'll leave that in the cards above. But the reason why that got brought up in yesterday's review, because obviously with the ending of episode 13, with Sherlock Wells saying he is coming with the red eyes, it definitely made a lot of us think, wait, are they actually going to really do Reverse Flash next episode, considering the depth of the Speed Force is the title and everything that's going on, and we know Eobard Thawne escaped at the end of season 5, and he just ran off in Central City, and he's just been chilling. Maybe he would want to know what's going on as well. Maybe he gets involved. Maybe he's like, what are you two nitwits getting up to? What have you done to the Speed Force? And they're like, having this confrontation about it. That is obviously such a terrible premise, but you get what I'm trying to say. It would make sense for Eobard to somehow clue into next episode. But personally for me, if you've seen my kind of somewhat recent video about how I said, when will the Reverse Flash return, or when should he return? I said I kind of want him to return in the future season as a main villain. Possibly the last season. Did I want him to return for a one-off episode? I don't really want that to happen. Unless it really does springboard him to return again for another future season, or whether that be the last season. I don't know. I kind of want the significance of that character to be spent purely gold in a final season, rather than another one-off episode and somehow at the end of it, even though it is Barry and Wally, to be fair, so they could take him on, I don't know. I just want him reserved. Now, as for the actual very quick trailer itself, the most significant scenes out of it is, well, let's start with number one, is this one. Now, this looks like it could be Barry and Wally in the Speed Force. I know kind of Wally is kind of like, in the shadow. At least I think that's Wally. We're gonna have to wait and see, because it's very like, it's got a green filter. It's very dark. And the reason why I think this is the Speed Force is just because of the filter. Not that I don't think they've been green before, but with the title of the episode, with even Wally saying it's beyond repair, what did you do? Is this like a weird and obvious way to tell the audience that it's somewhat corrupt, or is this something else completely different, with the episode? I'm very intrigued to see what this moment is. There's really not much clues. You can't really mega tell where they are. It could be Wally kind of connecting to Barry, just kind of trying to show him something, but I reckon it would be really cool if they tried to dive into the Speed Force. Maybe this has something to do with the tachyon device we see later on in the trailer, with Barry trying to see, okay, what's up with the Speed Force? Wally's felt it too, and this is what they find. But we're gonna have to wait ultimately, because it's very kind of ambiguous for now. This is also paired with the shot that I actually went on about quite a bit in the review at the time of episode 10, I believe it was, of when, when Barry was talking to Diggle in the Argus cell, and his hand just kind of mystified with Speed Force energy, and it was just on the fritz, and he shook it off. I went on to say, is this kind of setting up something in the future with something that's up with the Speed Force? And hey ho, I was right. That wasn't a hard guess, by the way. I'm not bigging myself up. It was kind of obvious they were planting seeds. What I didn't realize is I thought maybe Barry was just shaking it off, but in the trailer, he said himself that he didn't know anyone else was affected. So this means he acknowledged that his Speed Force connection was basically on the fritz before, but I guess he was kind of just feeling it out until something happened, I guess until this episode came around, and that is why he's saying that to Wally, because he didn't realize that he could sense it too, or other speedsters were having potential trouble. The most fascinating thing of that is what did you do? It's beyond repair, and what the heck does that mean? How are they going to remedy that? If it's beyond repair, can they even remedy that? this is what I mean. It's piping up to be a pretty cool episode. Now, as for what Barry did when Kid Flash asked him that's anyone's guess, I feel. I mean, you could say when he obviously became the kind of negative Flash, Dark Flash as they called him, his Speed Force lightning did change, and maybe because obviously Barry is quite a significant man in terms of like somewhat birthing the Speed Force, that might have caused quite a bit of strange corruption. I don't know though. I kind of want it to be something different. I mean, if they could spiral off that and make it a lot more interesting than what I just said, then fair enough. But if there is something else to it, that would be very intriguing, as to something like, oh god, we didn't realize Barry did that back then, and now that's what this means. Other than that, in this trailer, guys, we just have I believe the Mirrorverse Iris just kind of going around the Central City Citizen office. I believe we see Allegra kind of tackling Nash Wells for some reason. I mean, I know she's kind of like a bit pissed at him, but like, you know, I don't think she would do that unless maybe something's going on with Nash Wells, but we're gonna have to wait and see. Ultimately, that is the gist of this video, I believe. I just wanted to kind of share with you my enthusiasm of the next Flash episode in 2 weeks' time, especially from what Eric Wallace has teased before. And the most significant line, as I've said in this video already, and how it involves Barry will literally change the two of them and their abilities, quite frankly, moving forward. But not only that, Wally returns for one of the most pivotal episodes in the mythology of the Flash, and that is not an understatement. So, you know, Eric Wallace, please don't overhype this episode. I mean, you kind of have now, but don't overhype it for nothing. I hope it really is something special. Let me know if you're hyped for this episode, guys, down in the comments below. I know the trailer doesn't kind of give it justice, kind of, in terms of maybe the magnitude of this episode, especially with him saying it's one of the most pivotal in the mythology of the Flash. This season's been pretty solid so far. The new showrunner is doing what we wanted, to be honest. I mean, he's not got off to a bad start at all. It's really quite the opposite. Let me know what you're excited for. Let me know your theories. Who could the enemy of the Flash, the greatest enemy of the Flash that Wally and Barry face against? How do you think they're going to fix the Speed Force that is supposedly beyond repair? Or maybe they won't. Is the Reverse Flash coming? There's many questions to ponder, guys. But other than that, if you like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you click the like button. Definitely join my Discord server if you are a fan of The Flash and other shows, because I'm very active there. I'm in the voice chats. I talk a lot about the shows with you guys. So yeah, building a proper community there. You can support me more on Patreon. I'm adding a join button on this channel soon. Social media is Twitter, and that is everything, I think. Check out my past couple of videos, I guess. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you speedsters in the next video. Goodbye.